I would like to bring before you Ms. Ellen Fish.
Thanks, Sabrina. I would like to thank and recognize the fine work of both Sabrina Jones and also Charlie Owens on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. And of course, today would not be possible without Carla Nelson and her committee. So thank you. And to the honorees, congratulations. It truly is great to see so many people here today, and your presence demonstrates not only support for the Baltimore City Chamber, but also of Women's History Month. Today's luncheon theme is Uplifting Women of Baltimore, Elevating Lives of Others. And as astronaut Mae Jemison said so well, never limit yourself because of others' limited imagination. Never limit others because of your own limited imagination. And in the theme of today's luncheon, I'd like to talk about women in the boardroom and in the C-suites in Maryland public companies, and what we can do in our own businesses to elevate the lives of others. Since 2005, Network 2000 has been tracking the number of women on boards and in the C-suites of public companies headquartered in Maryland. We will release our census next month on April 18th at our Roadmap event at the Center Club. But I'm going to give you a sneak preview today of some of the information. Nowhere is it more evident that women are underrepresented than it is in the boardrooms and C-suites in this country. Today, women account for just 16.1% of the Fortune 500 board seats and 14.1% of executive positions. Yet women account for 50% of the labor force. In Maryland, that number is even less, with women holding just 10% of the board seats. 41.7% of the public companies in Maryland have no women on their boards, and 57.6% have no women executives. There are 86 publicly traded companies headquartered in Maryland, and only 6 of those companies have at least 20% or more women on both their boards and in their C-suites. Now, not only does Maryland lag the national average, but we also lag behind 14 countries, with many European countries now mandating that a minimum number of board seats be held by women. In fact, in Norway, 40.1% of the board seats are held by women, and it's really no surprise because back in 2006, Norway passed legislation requiring 40% of all board members to be women by 2008. Other countries have quickly followed, including Spain, the Netherlands, and France. In 2009, Australia's Corporate Governance Council recommended that companies disclose if they had a requirement to include women on their board, and if not, why not? Now, we really think at Network 2000 that that's a great question to ask, and we challenge Maryland companies without women on their boards or in their C-suites to ask themselves, if not, why not? Now, the business case for having women in management contends that companies that achieve diversity and manage it well actually attain better financial results on average than other companies. In a report recently published by Catalyst, 3 measures were used to examine financial performance, and those measures were return on sales, return on invested capital, and return on equity. The study found that there is a connection between gender diversity on corporate boards and financial performance. Companies with the most women board directors outperform those with the least on return on sales by 16%. Companies with the most women board directors outperform those with the least on return on invested capital by 26%. And when you look at sustained high representation of women board directors, and that is defined as those boards that have 3 or more women board directors in at least 4 of 5 years, the numbers become even more staggering. They significantly outperform those with sustained low representation by 84% on return on sales, 60% on return on invested capital, and by 46% on return on equity. So there's a compelling business case for diversity. But what can you as business owners and what can we as managers do in our own companies? You can mentor and you can sponsor women. While mentoring is essential for leadership development, it is insufficient for advancing to top levels. Recent research has pointed to a more influential and specific professional relationship, which is now being called sponsorship. Lately, organizations and the media have actually been giving sponsorship widespread attention. From a business perspective, it makes sense to grow one's own leaders in-house. It assures continuity, and with luck, trust and loyalty among people who hold the future of our organizations and whose new perspectives and ideas can contribute greatly. Recently, more than 200 women braved wind and snow to attend the launch of the Sponsorship Effect, Breaking Through the Last Glass Ceiling, which is a new study by the Center for Work-Life Policy. They were welcomed by American Express CEO, Kenneth Chenault, and American Express's headquarters up in New York. There were representatives of corporate giants like Intel, Deloitte, Morgan Stanley, and GE, as well as influential organizations like the UN and the CIA. And they explored why women hold so few of the Fortune 500 seats and how can we change that. They looked at what's been holding women back, and the study found it isn't a male conspiracy, but rather a surprising absence of advocacy from both men and women in positions of power. Women who are qualified to lead simply don't have the powerful backing necessary to inspire, propel, and protect themselves on their journey through upper management. Women lack, in a word, sponsorship. Now, what exactly is a sponsor, and how does sponsorship differ from being a mentor? A sponsor is someone who uses chips on behalf of his or her protege. They advocate for that next level promotion, as well as doing at least two of the following things: expanding the perception of what that protege can do, making connections for that individual with senior leaders, promoting that individual's visibility, opening up career opportunities, offering advice on anything from appearance to presence in the executive suite, making connections outside the company for these individuals, and giving advice. That differs from mentoring. Mentors proffer friendly advice, but a sponsor pulls you up to that next level. Women are only half as likely as their male peers to have a sponsor. And that means that they miss out on the measurable impact that a sponsor can have on them. Studies have found that without a sponsor behind them, 43% of men and 36% of women will ask their manager for a stretch assignment. But with a sponsor behind them, the number rises to 56% and 44%. The majority of unsponsored women, or 70% as the study found out, resist confronting their boss about a raise. With a sponsor in their corner, 38% of women summon the courage to do so. A sponsor confers a statistical career benefit anywhere from 22 to 30%, depending upon what's being requested, whether you're asking for a new assignment or a pay raise, and who's doing the asking on your behalf, whether it's a man or a woman doing the asking. So why do women fail to either access a sponsor or to make better use of it? The study concluded that the majority of ambitious women underestimate the pivotal role that sponsorship plays in the advancement of women. Rosalind Hundell, who's the Chief Diversity Officer for Intel, said, "When you get to the level where decisions are made about your career that are not just up to one individual, feedback from other leaders becomes crucial." He indicated having a sponsor who can provide that endorsement is absolutely critical to getting to the next level. More important, the study found out even women who grasp that concept failed to cultivate it effectively. Many felt that getting ahead based on who you know was inherently unfair. Many felt that they were passed over for plum assignments or pay raises or promotions, but they felt and believed that through hard work alone, that would merit them the opportunities. American Express has a program, and they call it Women in the Pipeline and at the Top. It teaches highly qualified women how to earn sponsorship and connects them with senior leaders. American Express believes that a more engaged workforce gives their company a competitive edge. And with that, in their company, women represent 60% of their worldwide workforce. They felt it was imperative for them, given this talent-rich population of women, that they attach them to sponsors. Last year, Network 2000 speaker for our Roadmap event was Jane Shaw, who is chairwoman of the board of directors for Intel Corporation. She spoke about Intel's corporate culture, that companies need to make a conscious decision to effectuate change, which will ultimately result in moving the needle and creating more diversity in boardrooms and executive suites. And at Intel, they believe so strongly in this that the board of directors now mandates that C-suite executives select a rising leader from a gender, racial, and ethnic diverse pool, and to sponsor that rising leader for at least 2 years. At Intel, sponsorship means taking an active role in that person's professional development, to consult with them on important issues, to take the initiative to introduce them to the people that they need to know, to invite them to events and settings that they otherwise would not get exposed to. In other words, to develop their leadership potential and ultimately increase their value to the corporation. We challenge the business owners and managers here today and ask that you become an active sponsor of women in your companies. What better way to uplift women of Baltimore and to elevate the lives of others? Next, partly because it is the right thing to do, but also because of the statistics have shown it also makes business sense. We'd like to encourage every business person here today to make it a priority to promote gender, racial, and ethnically diverse leadership teams. As much as business communities like we have here in Baltimore and in Maryland have traditional networking channels to identify leaders, it's important that we start to reach beyond those traditional channels. And thankfully, as American Express and Intel and others have shown, the business world is becoming more and more aware that at both the board table and in the executive suite, sound decisions are made when people responsible for these decisions have not only the expertise, but they also represent diverse perspectives, experiences, and backgrounds. And in the global markets of this 21st century, we as business leaders owe it to the stakeholders to capitalize on the best resources and to build our current structures to ensure that our leadership is representative of the constituents we serve. Now, these ideas are challenging and they can get us out of our own comfort zones, but it's a challenge worth taking if you believe that part of being a leader is to grow future talent and to reach out to the best resources available. I will end with a quote from First Lady Barbara Bush, and for the gentlemen in the room, please pardon my quote, but Barbara Bush was quoted as saying, "Somewhere out in this audience may even be someone who will one day follow in my footsteps and preside over the White House as the president's spouse. I wish him well." Thank you.